1. Good luck.
Thank you. Sir, please send the link.
Where is Anushka?
We need to. I'll just do it abhi ke liye, okay?
Yeah.
क्या लिखूं? Our event
Is streaming live on YouTube.
to please find link in bio. और वो अटैच कैसे करते हैं लिंक?
कॉपी वो मेरे को नहीं पता।
मैं बता रही आप मेरे को मैं कर दे रही
हो गया
Please mute your YouTube if you are playing.
दी मैसेज फॉर्मेट कर दो सबको सब फॉरवर्ड कर देंगे लिंक उसका YouTube वाला
Soumya, did you put it in the bio or should I?
I didn't
I'll do it. मैं कर
okay
Okay, sir. Guys, start admitting people.
Soumya's play the video.
All the best, everybody.
रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे
So I feel it's very important in our education system, in our teaching of dance, to really think about body, to think about gender, to think about issues, to think about sexuality, and what works for one need not work for the other. What is your take and what is your positioning? I think is so important when you come to a certain space.
And there is also a significant crackdown on the arts because they've been used to protest, and that should actually remind us and gesture to the fact that the arts are so powerful as a medium that they're constantly under threat. So what we should be doing is using that power very, very mindfully and very proactively, because they are powerful. Everyone knows that. And the moment we begin to say, oh, dance is separate from everything else, we're putting it into a box, we actually take that agency, that power away from dance.
In each new moment, one lifetime ends and another begins. So for me, an ideal body is in which one is prepared to die at every moment for something new to be created every moment. Through your mind, through your emotional landscape, and of course, through the physical body.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We'll begin the event shortly. Meanwhile, please make sure that your mics are muted and you maintain the decorum of the event. Thank you.
रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे.
So I feel it's very important in our education system, in our teaching of dance, to really think about body, to think about gender, to think about issues, to think about sexuality, and what works for one need not work for the other. What is your take and what is your positioning? I think is so important when you come to a certain space.
And there is also a significant crackdown on the arts because they've been used to protest, and that should actually remind us and gesture to the fact that the arts are so powerful as a medium that they're constantly under threat. So what we should be doing is using that power very, very mindfully and very proactively, because they are powerful. Everyone knows that. And the moment we begin to say, oh, dance, dance is separate from everything else, we're putting it into a box, we actually take that agency, that power away from dance.
In each new moment, one lifetime ends and another begins. So for me, an ideal body is in which one is prepared to die at every moment for something new to be created every moment. Through your mind, through your emotional landscape, and of course, through the physical body.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We'll begin the event shortly. Meanwhile, please make sure that your mics remain muted and you maintain the decorum of the event. Thank you.
रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे.
So I feel it's very important in our education system, in our teaching of dance, to really think about body, to think about gender, to think about issues, to think about sexuality, and what works for one need not work for the other. What is your take and what is your positioning? I think is so important when you come to a certain space.
And there is also a significant crackdown on the arts because they've been used to protest, and that should actually remind us and gesture to the fact that the arts are so powerful as a medium, that they're constantly under threat. So what we should be doing is using that power very, very mindfully and very proactively, because they are powerful. Everyone knows that. And the moment we begin to say, oh, dance, dance is separate from everything else, we're putting it into a box,
A very good evening, Divya ma'am. We welcome you to the event.
We're not live yet?
We are live,
Okay.
but we have yet not started the event. We wait for 5 more minutes for everybody to join in.
No problem at all.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे.
So I feel it's very important in our education system, in our teaching of dance, to really think about body, to think about gender, to think about issues, to think about sexuality, and what works for one need not work for the other. What is your take and what is your positioning? I think is so important when you come to a certain space.
And there is also a significant crackdown on the arts because they've been used to protest, and that should actually remind us and gesture to the fact that the arts are so powerful as a medium, that they're constantly under threat. So what we should be doing is using that power very, very mindfully and very proactively, because they are powerful. Everyone knows that. And the moment we begin to say, oh, dance is separate from everything else, we're putting it into a box, we actually take that agency, that power away from dance.
In each new moment, one lifetime ends and another begins. So for me, an ideal body is in which one is prepared to die at every moment for something new to be created every moment. Through your mind, through your emotional landscape, and of course, through the physical body.
Hello, Ishani ma'am. We welcome you to our event. We'll be starting shortly. We are waiting for 5 more minutes for Vidya ma'am and Rukmini ma'am to join in.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
A very good evening, Rukmini ma'am.
Good evening to you too.
We are just waiting for Vidya ma'am to join in, and then we'll begin.
Okay, sure.
Thank you for your patience. We'll begin the event shortly. Meanwhile, please make sure that your mics are muted and you maintain the decorum of the event. Thank you.
Okay, I think Vidya ma'am is here too. A very good evening, ma'am. We welcome you to our event. Okay, so everybody is here. We shall now begin with the event.
मुट्ठी में कुछ सपने लेकर भरकर जेबों में आशाएं, दिल में है अरमान यही कुछ कर जाएं, कुछ कर जाएं। सूरज सा तेज नहीं मुझ में, दीपक सा जलता देखोगे। सूरज सा तेज नहीं मुझ में, दीपक सा जलता देखोगे। अपनी हद रोशन करने से तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे, तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे। A very warm afternoon to our honorable panelists and enthusiastic folks. I, Chestha, along with my co-organizers, feel highly elated to welcome you all to our annual virtual webinar Izhar-e-raqs 2.0. Adrita, the Indian Dance Society of Hindu College, always take immense pleasure to introduce our people with new things to learn and explore, and never let you to box up your knowledge or refrain yourselves to know more about this world of art. Last year, too, we brought up the first glimpse of an insightful virtual webinar, Izhar-e-raqs, on title Poetry of Body and Politics of Dance, with esteemed panelists Ms. Geeta Chandran, Ms. Aditi Mangladas, and Ms. Ranjana Dave, who shared their valuable experiences, different perspectives, and insights with us, which helps to accelerate the growth of an artist and give us the chance to define ourselves. The love and the support that event got was overwhelming and encouraged us to hold another season of Izhar-e-raqs with double up zeal and enthusiasm on a very engaging topic, that is multidisciplinary approach to Indian classical dance. Adrita feels honored to invite our principal, Professor Anju Srivastav. We are deeply delighted for your presence today, ma'am. We request you to grace the event by addressing the gathering.
Good evening. A very good evening to all. And on behalf of Hindu College, I welcome all the students, all the guests, the distinguished guests who are here today, and all the others who have joined to listen to these very, very eminent personalities. I also don't know the name of this who just spoke, but of that last year's program with Abud, I don't remember the girl's name, but she was actually behind it all, and there was a huge problem of network and some technology issues were there, and I was trying to help them out. It was a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, and but finally the program went off very well, and it witnessed a lot of participation. Today also the theme is very interesting, very intriguing, because dance is not just about the body, it is about the mind. And when you take it in a very, very different perspective of, a holistic sort of perspective, taking into various angles to understand your body and how to execute it in the form of dance, I think it is very important to have all those approaches a little bit, to be aware of all of that. So it is an integral part of our getting shaped up, and should be so. We all of us have a bit of a dancer. If each one of us is a bit of a dancer in his or her own way. And in our college, of course, we have seen Adhrita. Through Adhrita, we have seen the dance, Indian classical dance, grow very well and become very popular. In the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, I've seen a tremendous growth of this form of performance in our college, and somehow I've seen that students have really found it the best way of expressing themselves and gaining confidence over the years. It is so heartening that Adhrita has in fact evolved even more to just a second. Sorry, I'm actually on my way to some other place, and I have my fellow who's driving doesn't know much of the roads and all, the routes. So I just thought I've taken a wrong route. Anyway, so as I said that Adhrita is a very, very welcome society with very good discipline amongst the students, and has shown a very meaningful interaction for the students of the college and outside to express themselves, to be known to people, and to gain heights in that. I can only say that you will keep getting our support anytime that you need. And I wish to see you blossom and flourish even more. Once again, a very big congratulations to the organizers, to the thought, to the idea. To get a consent from the speakers of today is not easy, because everybody is so tied up, and it is a lot of hard work. Even if it is the shortest duration function or a big function, there's a lot which goes in, a lot of coordination is required. And I'm sure you have done a tremendous job, and it will be a great experience for all the people who are attending. And those who are not attending must be missing. This is surely going to be a good interaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for showering your blessings upon us. We are happy to have our teacher in charge, Shalini ma'am, here with us, whose constant support and encouragement had always guarded up our spirits. Now, it's time to introduce our media partner for the event. Our major media partner, DUBeer and other Delhi University official. Live streaming partner, Culture Roots Foundation. They'll also upload a recorded version of this event on their YouTube channel. So if anyone misses out anything, they can watch it there as well. Its link will be dropped down soon in the chat box. Our media partner, Culture Roots Foundation, is an NGO founded in 2015 by Mr. Mohit Dobhal. The main focus of the NGO is to help underprivileged kids in India and to promote Indian culture of performing arts globally. This foundation have been collaborating with several major institutions like IITs, IIMs, and several Delhi University colleges to promote Indian classical performing arts. Since then, it has proved itself as one of the important platforms to promote and archive classical artists. Today, we have Mr. Mohit Dobhal, the founding director of Culture Roots, with us. He is an international music artist and teacher. He did his Sangeet Visharad and Alankar from Gandharva Mahavidyalaya, New Delhi, under the guidance of Pandit Madhu Mudgalji, and now taking advanced training under Sri Dhananjay Hegde ji of Gwalior and Kirana Gharana. Mohit has extensively performed in all the Indian states and countries like Germany, Poland, USA, UK, Denmark, Spain, Portugal, and many more. He has been teaching Hindustani classical music from past 10 years in Indian and foreign universities as guest lecturer. Mohit holds MPhil in music from University of Delhi and pursuing his PhD. He's been actively supporting the social and cultural causes from a long time. We are glad to have you, sir.
Thank you.
सोचने से कहाँ मिलते हैं तमन्नाओं के शहर, चलना भी जरूरी है मंजिल को पाने के लिए. Over to you, Soumya.
Thank you, Cheshta. We are privileged to be among such an esteemed board of panelists, and we are delighted to introduce them to all of you. We have our first panelist, Miss Vidya Subramanian. Vidya Subramanian is an eminent Bharatanatyam artist, acclaimed for her sensitive choreography and emotionally charged performances. Trained under gurus S.K. Rajaratnam and Kalindi Narayanan, her artistry has gained appreciation in India, USA, France, to name a few. In her charismatic creativity, one witnesses a strong belief in the validity of choreographic structure combined with openness to new influences. An intelligent, articulate, and moving performer, she employs her outstanding interpretive and dramatic skills to make emotions palpably present on stage. With an MA in theatre, she has enriched her artistic experience with forays into theatre and film as well. We are elated to have you on board with us, ma'am.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very enriching discussion with all of you.
Next, we have Miss Divya Goswami in our panel. Born into the family of the legendary Hindu philosopher of Vedanta, Swami Ram Tirtha, Miss Divya believes dance is each moment lived to the optimum with complete abandon and total awareness. Initiated into the Lucknow Gharana of Kathak under the able guidance of Guru Yogini Gandhi and the great maestro of Lucknow Gharana, Guru Munna Shukla ji, Miss Divya has been bestowed with the coveted National Award of India, Ustad Bismillah Khan Yuva Purashkar, and the national title Singer Mani. A TEDx speaker and performer, she is empaneled with ICCR and is an A-grade Doordarshan artist. To further enhance her creativity and promote, preserve, and propagate Indian classical arts, Miss Divya has established Divya Kala, a creative venture showcasing her versatility as a dancer, teacher, storyteller, writer, compere, artist, dramatist, and creative therapist. We are grateful to have you on board, ma'am.
Namaskar. Completely honored to be here and looking forward to a wonderful interaction with all of you.
Next, we have Miss Rukmini Vijay Kumar. She is the artistic director of Radha Kalpa Dance Company and the director of Lashwa, a creative space for artists in the heart of Bangalore. She is the founder of the Radha Kalpa method, an educational system for Bharatanatyam that is based on the idea of neutrality. Ms. Rukmini's approach to Bharatanatyam is dedicated, rigorous, and layered. She has presented her work as a soloist all over the world, including venues such as Jacob's Pillow Festival, Drive East NYC, and the Corso Theatre. Recently, she played the Goddess of Love in Sukanya, produced by the Royal Opera House in London. She was bestowed the title of Arshakala Bhushanam by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Also an actor, Miss Rukmini has been recognized for the roles that she has played in a number of Indian films and theatre performances. We are delighted to have you with us, ma'am.
Namaste. I'm so happy to be here and speak with all of you.
Moving on, we welcome our fourth and final panelist. We have Miss Ishani Sathe. Ishani Sathe is a Kathak performer trained under Pandit Rajendra Gangani and Guru Srimati Radhika Sathe. She holds the position of Head of Administration and Curation at Kathak Nritya Mandir, an institution working for the education and promotion of Kathak for the last 5 years. Ishani is a recipient of numerous national awards, including the Ministry of Culture Award of Scholarship to Young Artists 2013 and amongst many others. She has performed at various acclaimed platforms across the world, namely United Nations, International Volunteers Day 2020 program, UNDP India, Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council, India's National Gratitude Week 2021. Her strength lies in rigorous traditional training in the Guru Shishya Parampara of Kathak, matched with the experience in working with numerous dance companies across India, USA, and Canada, the confluence of which has led to her current position in the field of Kathak. Adrita is excited to have you on board with us.
Thank you so much. It feels like an honor to be here amongst artists who inspire me day in, day out. Thank you.
Dance. It is as much an experience of the mind as it is of the body. And to quench our thirst for knowledge, we now embark upon this journey of insightful discussions and new learnings. I, Diksha, again would take this opportunity to graciously thank each one of you for your benign presence and extend our heartfelt welcome to all of you. So before we move on to discuss the subject at hand, which is the multidisciplinary approach to Indian classical dance, as students, we are always curious to know about the journeys of artists, about their initial influences, interests, and struggles. Vidya ma'am, I request you to please share something about your dance journey.
Gosh, I started learning when I was 8 years old from Dr. Padma Subramaniam. You know, she is an inspiration to so many dancers, so many students of dance. And I remember going to one of her performances and just being awestruck by that ability to communicate with even the last person in the last row in the theater. And I just fell headlong in love with her style and her approach to dance. And I remember pestering my father to take me to her, and she took me in. However, we had logistical issues, and then 3 years later, I moved to Guru S.K. Rajaratnam, under whom I did my Arangetram at the age of 16. And I also continued my Abhinaya training with Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan, the Doyen among Abhinaya exponents. I would say that all of these learnings over, these 45 years or more probably that I've been learning in dancing, the gurus set me off on this path. But beyond that, it is, how you learn to grow, what you learn from your own experiences, and not just your own performance experiences, but from those around you, from the other senior performers. And I remember watching so many performances. I remember going to as many as I could. And it was not only Bharatanatyam, so Kathak, Odissi, Kuchipudi, every style that was available. And Chennai was fortunately, everything was available. So I was able to attend a lot of this. So immense amount of learning from every single opportunity that one could get. Sort of all goes into who I am as a dancer. And I will, in between, somewhere in my 20s, I did go to the US, and I was living there for about 30 years. And very recently, I moved back to Chennai, to India for good. And that itself was a learning experience. Initially it was sort of difficult to think about leaving Chennai, leaving that very busy performing career and travel and touring, and it was all it was sort of taken for granted at that point. So it was class thrice a week, and then rehearsals and performances, and it was such a pleasure to be constantly engaged. And then off I went to the US, to Nashua, New Hampshire, where it was snowing in the middle of February, and with nothing. That this little town that I went to, Nashua, had one Indian store, and that was it. So it was a huge, rude shock. And from there, we moved to California, but 30 years of just understanding how to adapt and assimilate to the culture that I was exposed to there, and beyond the culture, the dance forms, and learning to interact, learning about lighting, learning about how theater works, and taking modern dance classes and understanding how the body works. So many such learnings along the way. So I want to say, in a nutshell, to answer your question, that this journey has been one of learning and continues to be so. And I hope that it will, that learning will never end, because that is what excites me. So that's sort of my journey in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Rukmini ma'am, now I would like to invite you to please share something about your journey.
I think, like Vidyaka said, I think what excites me most is being in class, actually. So I would give up anything to be in a dance class the entire day, in someone else's class, not my own. And I think that was something that I took for granted as a child, because I started dancing maybe when I was 5 or 6 with Guru Padmini Rao. And after that, I studied with Sundari Akka. I started learning with her in my teens, because Akka was, Padmini auntie was a little bit more busy and Sundari Akka had more time. So I went to her and I started in actually Padu Akka's Bani. But because I'd spent so many years in kind of a Tanjavur Pandanallur Bani, I also started learning with Narmada auntie at the same time as Sundari Akka. So I had 2 teachers. Basically, I lived in their house until they kicked me out most of the time. So I would go and Akka would say, why don't you eat and come? And then I would say, it's okay, I'll wait here until you finish lunch. And I would just wait and continue dancing, So, and I think Narmada auntie was extremely patient with me. I must have been a very annoying child. So I did that for many, many years. Then I went to college for dance as well. So fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know anything else other than dance. So I did my undergraduate degree in ballet and modern dance in a conservatory and in Boston. So it's so we basically dance. We don't have any academics really. We just dance the entire day. And I had a number of teachers. Then I started learning ballet again in my teens when I was in India. I used to learn ballet when I was very small in the US when I was very young, and then again in my teens I'd started learning again. So it seemed okay for me to go to full-time dance school, but unfortunately when I was there, I lost both my teachers. Both Narmada auntie and Sundari Akka passed away when I was in college, because summers I would come back only to see them, basically. So I would come and I would just live in their houses the entire summer. So for 3 months when I was off from college, I really pity my teachers. Like, I feel really bad for them. Being a teacher myself, I understand how bad it must have been for them. So after that, I think when I was done with college, I considered going the whole musical theater route, and I spent a few months in New York, and then I just decided I just need to do Bharatanatyam, and I was just like, that's my home, that's my vocabulary, that's what I speak in, that's what I think in. It's like a language, so, and I just came back home. So after that, it's been that's it. That's basically it. After that, I just spend a lot of time alone in the studio. So that's basically my life.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I invite Divya ma'am to please take us through her dancing journey.
I guess much like everyone else over here, our journeys began the same way where, our parents took us to a dance class and that's how it began because somewhere it is also their dream maybe or an aspiration for the child like every parent. And my father comes from a defense background. So initially there were too many logistical problems to find a teacher or stick to one teacher because it was just very challenging and communicating traveling was not as easy as it is in today's generation. It was really tough to even travel 15 kilometers in that time when you were a child. But I guess thanks to the blessings of my family, my grandmother, that the journey continued. And just like Vidyaka mentioned, I'm taken back to the first time I saw my guru, Yogini Didi, and I saw her on stage in a very, very special place, which is the Osho Commune. It is, as it is itself, a very charged and energized meditative field. So to see her there, she was like, I remember not even clapping once in her entire 2 hour performance. I was just that awestruck by her. And that's how the journey began. And she saw me dancing because I had already been learning for a few years from different people. And all she said to my mother and my grandmother was that you just have to leave her with me and go away. That's the only way I'm going to teach her. So wonder what she saw, what she thought, what she planned in that half an hour interaction with a girl who was just 11 years old. But she gave me everything I have about Kathak, everything that you can correlate to dancing, which is probably everything in our lives, right from discipline management, how you conduct yourself, how you move, how you look, how you do literally everything. She just gave me everything very, very, very openly in a strict, rigorous environment. And I'm really thankful for that. Otherwise, I was a pretty bad student myself, just like Rukmini. She's saying I was really very, very questioning, over questioning maybe to a level. But then she took it all in, and that's how my journey began. But then I felt that there was a need to figure out what dance really meant to me because I had been with her, continuing with her regularly for over 15 years. So I thought that it's time to just understand what is my dialogue with dance, what does it mean to me. So I went away for a few years. I was abroad and I lived there and I figured it out for myself and realized even more, when the challenge is presented before you that you don't have a single Indian artist around you for in that whole country. Forget, in the neighboring town or anything like that. It was that challenging for me. And any small ray of hope I would get, I would seize that opportunity. And that's what probably connected me at a very, very deep level to the arts. And being from a family of philosophers, I guess it was all just given to me subconsciously, but that's the time I actually figured it out for myself, gave it a more defined meaning. And then I came in touch with my guru, Munna Shuklaji, who's again just an extension of what I had been the earlier years. And both my gurus have been very, very open, very, very welcoming of everything. You must watch everything, must see everything, learn, question, ask, and most importantly, just sit and meditate over it. So that was what was given to me from my gurus. And of course, later on, meeting Guru Kamalini Dutt, who continues to be, I don't call her my guru, I call her my mother. She's an extension of that. So it's just been a very, very fortunate journey of being surrounded by such positive, artistically inclined people who you can see art in them in everything that they do. So it's really very inspiring. And I continue to learn from them, continue to be inspired by them, and still, learn and unlearn for myself what I want to be. And today I am this, tomorrow I want to be something else. And that is the beauty of art for me. And that's just the journey, and it's continuing. And I hope that it is even more joyous than what it is at this moment.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ishani ma'am, please come forward and tell us about your dancing journey.
Thank you, Deeksha. I feel such joy to be here. Let me just mention that again. Just listening to these wonderful artists, sheer joy. I was born to a dancer, so I feel privileged that from a very young age, probably from the time when I was in her womb, I was listening to dance, I was feeling dance, I was feeling the energy of it. And my early memories of dance are, I think, just me sitting next to my mother with a tabla and a harmonium right next to me, observing classes for hours at an end. And I was a very shy kid, so till the age of 4 or 5, every time somebody asked me to, just go get up and dance in the class, it was a strict no. I was just hiding behind my mother. Then going back home, and we used to live with my grandparents, so I used to just put the curtains on and say that I'm going to perform for my grandmother now, and then open the curtain and do the entire piece that I had seen in the classes. So my official training started at the age of 8. And my mother was very strict. She said that if you train under me, you'll never be disciplined. So for the longest time, for around 8 years, I was training under one of her senior students. And that taught me a lot. That taught me discipline. That taught me to look at my mother differently when we were in the setup of a studio or a class or in the institute. And again, I was training till the age of 18, 19, 20, but I took up academics. I took up Bachelor's of Science, and I was not very sure till around 22, 23 if I really wanted to become a dancer. If I was a dancer, but to really take it up as a profession or to be dedicated to it in that manner. And I remember sitting for my first campus interview, like all of us do after our science degrees. And just in that moment, it hit me from somewhere that I would never want to do a desk job. And the kind of joy I find in a studio or in a class or just being around artists, that joy is nowhere else. That was a turning point where I'd already started training under Rajendra Gangani ji at that point. And looks wise, I'm a carbon copy of my mother, but there was a phase from the age of 23 to 26 where people, every time I was on stage, people used to say, you look like Gangani ji, because the influence was so much. I was so inspired just looking at him, just being in awe of everything that he was and that he stood for. So finally, I took up, I got the sense of finally following my passion, what I really felt passionate about. And the journey has been on. I worked with a lot of dance companies. 2016 was my first tour of North America as a soloist. And I discovered Indian Raga, which is a platform which takes up Indian classical arts. I can see with the nodding that you all are familiar with the company. And the first fellowship that I did with them in San Diego, with a 4-camera setup and with the fact that I had to create something for a digital platform, opened up a whole other arena for me where I felt like, wow, I can do close-up shots. Abhinaya can be explored on such a different platform, and it was very interesting. It took me quite a few years to educate myself in the whole technology. But now I'm in Boston, and I would like to mention a very small thing that I was watching one of Rukmini Akka's interviews where she mentioned that she studied at the Boston Conservatory. So the first time I stepped into the conservatory to watch a show, which was a couple of months back, my first memory was, oh my God, Rukmini Akka would have been here and she would have danced in these studios, probably on the stage in one of her recitals. I just wanted to mention it because there was some feeling of familiarity, or I don't know, something in my head that felt like somebody I know would have danced here. So all of you, thank you for sharing your journeys. It inspires people like me who are, as Vidyaka said, that when you come to a different culture, something like Boston, which is so varied, and it has a lot of Indians, but it's a completely different culture. So to present your art form here, you need to be acquainted with how things work around here. And when I hear stories like these, when I feel familiarity at such an unknown place, it transforms me from within. So thank you for sharing your stories, and that's my journey.
Thank you so much, all of you. I'm very sure that all of your experiences will help shape us, our perspectives regarding the art form, because a lot of people are like, dance hi to karte ho. I have heard that a lot of times. But listening to you really strikes that for so many years you have been practicing and dancing, and the sheer joy of dancing is reflected on your faces even while you speak of dance. So that's really inspiring for all of us. So thank you so much. Moving on to our first question on the topic multidisciplinary approach to Indian classical dance. Our first question is, intellectually, if we elaborate our vocabulary in dance by fusing it with other art forms, it can also lead to delusion, where some people might even call it contamination in their particular dance form. Is there a need to break free from such an ideology? Anybody who would like to take it up?
I could start. I have to confess, first of all, I'm not a big fan of the word fusion as such. So to me, fusing implies this sort of taking two things and smashing them together without an organic process. So for me, see, when we talk of, you said, I see the word dilution here and contamination. When do these elements creep into choreography or work? It is when things are joined together without each of the components, in the two parts that are being brought together, if they don't understand each other, or if there is no conversation between them, that's when dilution or contamination happens. Now, I like the word collaboration because that implies a certain level of openness between the two artists who are collaborating, or two or more. There is openness, there is understanding, there is questioning, there is a willingness to listen to the other, there is a sort of, vulnerability in the process, and also respect for what each is bringing to the center. And so this meeting ground is filled with a lot of these elements for it to become a meaningful collaboration. And in this process, I would say that, without understanding the other form, or with, it's not possible. But beyond that, I think it's also important to understand the artist, where they're coming from, their history. Like you just asked each of us our histories, our journeys. And that is also important when you are meeting another artist on this platform, so to speak, because you both share that love for the dance form or any art that you're collaborating on. Now, you also have to understand why you are choosing to collaborate. Is it for the sake of performance? Is it, performance perhaps could be an outcome to this collaborative effort, but that is not the end goal, or that is not the only reason why you come together. You come together because you can't imagine not working with this artist or with that particular form that you're seeing. It's very difficult for you to imagine not working, with that person. So that is one reason that it has to be compelling, in other words, for you to want to go through that process. And beyond that, conversations, of course, and this exchange is something that I feel should enrich the other as well. It's enriching you for sure when you are collaborating with someone, but beyond that, it has to enrich the other as well. So are you in it to only take or to give as well? So there is a lot of the give and a lot of the take in such endeavors. And it shouldn't, like I said, it shouldn't happen just for the sake of doing a collaboration just because it is the expected thing to do, or just because it's cool, or everybody does it, or that's not shouldn't be the driving reason, because you invest so much into that journey, and it's not about a few minutes of saying, okay, does this adable match that particular movement in another form that you're working with. It's not about that. It's so much deeper than that. So if we are going to invest in that journey, we have to really be convinced about it as individuals, as two individuals coming together in that. And beyond that, there is we sort of navigated with this childlike excitement, this childlike quality of discovery, and this sort of excitement on finding out something about the other form, and also your own form. You discover something new about your own form when you are collaborating with someone. So there is a lot of excitement in that process. So you have to bring the childlike quality to that, where you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And that, I feel, makes for a meaningful collaboration, so to speak.
Divya ma'am, can we have your views on the question?
I think Vidya Akka has really somehow, at the same wavelength. I was thinking about the same thing when this question was presented, that as an artist, you have to be very conscious and in control of what change you're making and why. This is the most important thing. It should not just be done because it is the need of the hour, or it is what everyone else is doing, or it is required because, like Akka said, that the production demands it. So, okay, let me just do this for the sake of it. There has to be a thought process which needs to go into why you're doing and what you're doing. And that is definitely a very important. The other thing, since Akka has really beautifully brought this up, I don't want to elaborate more on this, but moving away from the word fusion a little bit and going into the other aspect, a lot of time this kind of an ideology is also questioned with a lot of people who are doing experimental works with the traditional art forms. Now, the word traditional, please don't take it like I'm fixating it to a particular thing. That's not, for a lack of a better word. That is why I'm just using it. Let me call it a parampara, because I feel it's a very flowing tradition. Our classical art forms, there is a beautiful circularity in it. Circularity from the point of view of an individual artist. Even if I talk about only myself, I'm evolving based on my interactions, my geography, my beliefs, my ecosystem. Everything is changing, and that also slowly translates into what kind of an artist I become. And it changes the sensibilities of the art with time, which is called a creative exploration for all of us. But what happens is that this constant rethinking, revival, reinvention has been a part of the journey of the classical dance forms. We've heard these words since age old, which basically brings me to the point that each art form will definitely change with time. It is the only permanent in life change. There is nothing else. But again, what is it that makes Kathak Kathak? When I look at a dancer and I say, oh, she's a Bharatanatyam dancer. Why do I say that? So that distinguishing, describing, defining quality of the art must never be lost for it to remain this true, pure form, which I call the tradition, nothing else. And there is, that thing, just like in our day-to-day life, it's a very common thing. And I have been an economics student forever in my life. So this is the closest metaphor I can find. That we always accommodate for inflation in our everyday life, which basically means you're accounting for a little change in the economics of your life, in your functioning of your life. Similarly, I feel for arts also we have to accommodate for that little change, but not changing it so much that it is no longer Kathak and I'm still being Kathak. You cannot embody the art form if it no longer is what is called Kathak, Kathak. There has to be a reason why it is there. And I just feel that each art form is so relevant in its own time. In this current time, this is what it is. Tomorrow, it might be something else. Day after, it was maybe, my guru always says that, you all don't know hamare zamane mein kya hota tha. So I always, like a bad student, I always tell him, I can't know because I was not even born at that time. I'm hearing it from you. But that doesn't mean that as an artist, I should negate that particular flow, or I should fuse something else into it just because I'm of this generation and today this kind of a style is popular. It is popular to collaborate a lot of use of technology in theater into dance. So I want to do it. No, that is not what should be done. And the only thing that I feel is that the spirit and soul, the very essence of the art form is what should be kept at the center, whether it is the flow of the tradition, whether it is the fusion, whether it is the confusion, whatever you want to call it. But all of that has to be kept and be at the center. We must understand, I may be very wrong about this, but this is just my opinion, that each of us as an artist has a certain limitedness because we are all but one individual, which is why we collaborate and we take in from so many people. So we must understand what is our limitedness in the larger unlimitedness of the art. That is all I would like to add to that.
Rukmani ma'am.
Okay, I think this is a very long question and a lot of us can see a lot of things on it. So the first thing I would comment on is the word fusion. It's also something I personally hate. I hate the word, just like Vidyaka said, because it automatically implies an arbitrary clumping of random things together. And I don't think that art is made like that. So yes, art definitely changes. Art is like a river. It flows. Definitely the way that we dance today is not the way that generations previous to us danced or the generations before that. If I look at some of Vaijayanti Mala's or Hima Malini's videos, or even if I look at some of the older videos that I found of some of the dancers from these films of Kalakshetra and all of that, the way that the bodies move is different. And it's not exclusive to Bharatanatyam. It's the same thing with all art forms. Like if you look at modern art or ballet or all of it, all dance forms, everything changes. And that's okay. Change can happen. But this arbitrary change that comes from the need to be novel is something that I find ridiculous. So if you find that something is cool, something is done, something is hip and happening, and you make changes or add things just to be different. Novelty and being different is not a motivation to create art. What I think personally for me, what has worked, I can only speak about myself, is that the more I study and the more I learn Bharatanatyam, the easier it is for me to open the wings and fly, And when I was younger, because I had like a very serious, like I went to a conservatory and I had proper contemporary training, and I could have been a completely like modern dancer and done like, that kind of work. And I was also learning Bharatanatyam. So they were both separate forms, and I had both these forms in my body. But I purposely kept them completely separate. I kept both the forms in, like I would make contemporary work, which was just contemporary, and then I would make Bharatanatyam work, which was just Varnams and Jatiswarams and, like stories from the Ramayana or Bhagavatam or something like that. But in the past 4 or 5 years, I think as I do my contemporary work, but now it's changed for me because I think I know Bharatanatyam better. When I was younger, I wasn't confident of taking steps because I didn't see where it was possible. But now when I do Bharatanatyam, I can make a contemporary work that is completely in Bharatanatyam vocabulary, that is what you say, is true to the nuance of Bharatanatyam in terms of talam, ragam, and even content in some ways, and physicality, and the way that I have learnt it or how I know it. But at the same time, it's relevant to the world that is present around me, or that's relevant to me as a person of this world, in this time, in this place, dealing with these things that we have around us in this age, you know. So I don't think that when the change happens and it comes from a place of needing to say something, and I have, like, say I've learned A, B, C, D, and I know so much Bharatanatyam, I know theater, I can sing a little bit, and I'm really trying to say something, and I have a topic at hand and I want to communicate the topic, and I use the tools that I know well, not the tools that I arbitrarily fit in. So I can only use the tools that I know well. So if I use yeah, I know some theater and I know Bharatanatyam really well. Well, you know, my modern dance is so I'm not going to use that. And I'm going to use something else that I know well. I can sing decently. So I use these things and I say, okay, now how do I say what I want to say? Then I think if it happens, you're using different things, but that, in my opinion, I think that's okay, because it comes from a place of needing to communicate, needing to say something in a vocabulary that is strongest to you, right? And we do that in language as well. So if you're saying something in English and there's something that you absolutely cannot say in English, we'll use a Hindi word or we'll use a Sanskrit or Tamil word, and that's okay, because that's what you do. But it's not coming from a place of I want to be cool and this is amazing, everyone uses technology, so in then my next production I'm going to have projection. So you decide projection even before you decide what you want to say in the production. So I think that kind of fusion is disrespectful to all the art forms involved, not just one. It's not that it contaminates. Nothing is contaminated really. Whatever you're contaminating, supposedly contaminating it with, also is disrespected. So if you say I contaminated Bharatanatyam with hip hop, if you say, I don't agree, because I think hip hop is also disrespected in the whole thing. So both art forms are not paid their dues, because any artist who knows and lives and studies an art form deeply will know where the rules are and which feels right to them. And as long as it feels honest and right to you, I don't think it matters.
Thank you, ma'am. Ishani, ma'am, your insights?
I think I would like to second a lot of things that were just said here. I feel the word fusion got popularity because of a lot of reality TV work that came along, and the word fusion became like a pop thing to do. And artists were asked a number of times to deliver that sort of work. What I feel is, as Rukmini Akka said, that you really need to know your art form to understand what the aesthetic of the art form is, and to know what line becomes a distortion. And distortion can mean not just doing a movement differently. It can mean that you just shook the root of that art form somewhere where it does not prescribe to the definition anymore. Now, how do we define Kathak, right? So as my gurus always say, that the movements that they learned from their Dada gurus, they can teach it in a very completely different meaning today. It is the same movement, but the way it is used, the way it expresses is completely different. So where is the demarcation of this is old, this is new, this is Kathak, this is not Kathak? Again, this comes to the basic facts of how much are you trained, how extensively have you watched, how much have you really practiced, how much have you understood the text behind it and the practicality that comes out of it. For example, I collaborated with a painter recently, and I had to truly understand what color she was using, what texture was the color, what each color represents. So every time I would see her sample sketch, she was drawing my movements in a certain way. There was some aesthetic with which she was drawing my spins, and even an oil color from an acrylic or watercolor from an acrylic made a lot of difference. So basically, she had to understand the aesthetics of her own art, the tools that she has herself to really make sense of what the other art form is and how to collaborate with that art form. The same way, when I collaborated with her for a video, I had to really make sense of, I can't just splash paint on my body to collaborate with a painter. I have to understand how will the colors come out? How will her painting, which is showcased right behind me, how will I create an art piece based on that? So I think basic understanding of the aesthetic, what makes an art form for you yourself, what do you follow and what do you see, and what would you like to represent as an artist? I think that understanding for me would be the basis of doing any kind of collaboration. And as was said right now, that just for the sake of novelty, just because it is deliverable right now, does not make any sense, because that again leads to distortion and misrepresentation of the art form.
Thank you so much, all of you. I think especially this question was really important for young people like us, because we are living in an age of Instagram and Facebook, where we see a lot of fusions and varied art forms mixing up with each other. And to be very honest, it excites me. It does. But the next time I see it from the other dimension that you today have added. So thank you so much for your insights. I'm sure this will make all of us well educated about the art form. Okay, so now I'll move on to the next question. Uh, in Indian classical dance, there are certain aspects attached to various characters. A female character is always shown with subtle and soft body movements, whereas the male character is always symbolized with strength and vigor. How do you view the evolution of such notions in the Indian classical dance? And do you see a need to change these gender dynamics, or will that be a question of authenticity? Divya ma'am.
Okay. Firstly, I personally don't see the male form as always aggressive, or my own form, which is a female body, as always subtle or delicate. So first of all, I do not believe with this particular philosophy. I feel each character, whether it is from mythology, whether it is a figment of my imagination or someone else's imagination, all of it has both these energies within it, which we call the male energy and the female energy. It's just a fact. That is all. There is no, this is man, so he must dance in a very, very fierce, aggressive, rigorous manner, and the woman must always be submissive or delicate or, be gentle. It is not true. I can quote so many examples right from history to current times, where the male form is so, the most important Leela Purushottam Krishna, so delicate, so gentle, and at the same time fierce when he needs to be in battle. Both the things exist in him. Same way Durga, the roop of Lakshmi Bai, whoever, modern or from our stories behind, all of them have all these shades. And all of you who must have, especially for the younger people who joined us today, that these are concepts of just lasya and tandav, and even when they are spoken of, I interact with so many young dancers, and they always say, lasya means delicate, subtle. And if I ask them to define it in words, this is the definition they give, which you have put in your question by yourself. And that is not true. There are so many types of tandav. Anand tandav is so delicate, so gentle. So how can you question even that part is not fathomable by me. And as I was saying, that these are just principles of energy. The Srishti, Sriti, Samhara, Tirodhar, Anugraham. These are all what is being described by these two parts. And if you look at the psychological analysis, or if you look at the yin and yang concept, again, two approaches, male and female, these are two parts. And eventually the best of it will come when they will be unified in one whole. And that is what within us as dancers also we are always trying to find. Kathak, we all know, has so much rigor and speed attached to it. So even if I am by nature, if I am a delicate person, I will have that side within me. So the dance is already giving me that approach to explore both these paths so that I can find an inner alignment, which is the best for me. And the other thing that I would like to say over here, as I mentioned, Krishna, the male energy, and people always, say Radha, the female form, clad in a sari. Yeah, that's the female form. But it can also be looked in an interesting way, where you can say the Radha Tattva, the Radha Bhav, the marg, the path to lead to the supreme consciousness. It doesn't matter whether it comes from the male towards the female or the female towards the male. They both are paths which can crisscross, which can interact, and which can lead to a better understanding of how the energies really work in this existence, from my body into this whole, wanting to connect to something larger than me. What you call the universal energy, probably, but something larger than me, something which is always carrying me as an artist. And maybe little radical at this point, but since we are having an open discussion, and I have Vidya Kau here who can correct me if I'm wrong, that in the current time that we are in, we see gender as like a drape on our bodies, like a mask. And we are constantly struggling with thoughts, and we put it on, this is this gender, so this must do that, and we just use it as a garb to speak what we are not able to talk very openly. And in a society like ours, we should be able to, because we come from traditions that have really expanded and are spoken of. We see so many sculptures, we see so many texts, paintings that speak of such things that usually societies don't talk about. So when we have this, why would we garb ourselves in the bodies of a sari-clad female vis-a-vis a dhoti-clad male? No, that is really right from the way we dress. There is a need to little shift our thinking, and this conformity of gender that we are stuck with, that ladki hai to aise hi hona chahiye. I mean, whether it is my modern thought process or whether it is the thought process of a character from maybe 1,000 years back, there is a need to explore all the aspects of its presence, of its sensibilities. Every aspect can be spoken about rather than just sticking to this and that. And I always see it as within myself, because there are days that you are strong, and then there are days that you just want to be very calm and very subtle and very non-responsive to things. So we all, everyday lives, also try to strike this balance. So that is what dance gives us, rather than a man and a woman form, the vessel.
Thank you, ma'am. Ishani, ma'am, what would you add to this?
Divya Didi has already explained it wonderfully. What I would like to add is, I think from a personal experience, last year itself, I saw Swati Sinha ji perform a wonderful piece in Kathak Kendra, which was about Shurpanakha. And Shurpanakha generally is considered a devil woman in our eyes. And why is she devil? She's considered, or she's on a holistic perspective, people say that she's a bad person, or the one who triggered all the evil that came out. It is said she was bad because she belonged to a certain family, or because she expected something, or she wanted something and she was outspoken about it. All of those characteristics. The whole production that Swati Didi had conceived was seeing the whole story from her perspective, and the questions she asks, that why was the need for me to be disfigured? What was the need for that to happen? Why is it that I am considered the reason Ravana did what he did? And why am I considered the blame that a woman was abdicated and ashamed, shamed in front of the whole society? So there are productions like these coming up. I think they have been existing for a very long amount of time now. Even if you see thumris or certain bhajans of the Jaipur lineage, which at least I know of, they speak about female bhakti, like Meera's bhakti, also in a very heroic form. The portrayal can also be done in a Veer rasa along with bhakti and shringar. All that we need to do is look at the poetry which was written that way. Mirabai's written poetry, which also has sometimes Veer, sometimes Raudra ras in some of its couplets. But I think that representation needs to happen more and more. I recently was researching on the lives of Mughal women, and generally what was considered like women behind the veils, women who did not have much power or money, was actually not the case. And I felt a little stupid myself that how did I perceive the whole lineage of Mughal women who were tradesmen, who were administrators, who took care of the entire system of zananas. How are they not represented for the amount of power, wealth and status that they had? And that triggered me to create work, to make pieces which spoke of them in rightfully the strength that they held and the position and the impact that they made. So I don't think that it has not been done before, but I think more emphasis on this uh, can be done without it being considered going against the notion. Because if you can see Radha being Madhura Bhav Bhakti, why can't, as Divya Didi said, why can't we see Radha in a different shade? If we can see Sita, who gave the Agni Pariksha and who was not accepted by her own husband, why can't we show the Sita whose strength lied in raising two kids on her own? And when it came for her to take a stand, she always took a stand. Why can't we show the strength in that? Why can't we show the veer in that and omit the karun for a minute? So I feel it should not be considered going against the trend. It is pretty much in trend. It just needs to be elaborated a little.
Thank you, ma'am. Vidya, ma'am, please share something.
I was listening to both of you and thinking, we often talk about art and life, right? So I wonder, does art imitate life or does life imitate art, right? So which of these components are, we as artists know we are constantly borrowing from life and vice versa. So when we look at this subject of gender, and it is such a complex subject that I feel it cannot be just divided into based on binaries, male, female. That's not all there is to it. And we know that there are multiple genders or spectrums that we can look at. And I feel that as human beings, we are all dancers are human beings, we're not apsaras. And as dancers, as human beings, we are ourselves made up of multiple genders and fluidity within our beings, right? So it's not, we all look or sort of dress a certain way, but, and society puts us, loves putting all of us into boxes, male, female, okay, to tick those boxes, and there you are. It's like a filling out a form. So, but we are so much more than these boxes, right? So the boxes are just there for society to continue in. But beyond that, first of all, understanding where that fluidity exists within you as a human being, and therefore, also a dancer, is one aspect to it. And then when I look at the other side, it is also the characters we're portraying. Now, as a female, identified as female dancer, then I am portraying a Krishna or a Shiva or and also the Parvati, Sita, Radha, all of those, right? So now male dancers, we have some fabulous, wonderful male dancers who also, can portray both genders of characters. Now, when we take these characters, I feel we put them also in these boxes of how they must act or how they must behave. And I'm not talking about mythological narratives here, because the narratives themselves are often, they were set eons ago. The mythology, what it says, what it gives us is something that we borrow from constantly to work with what we are doing in the current world that we live in. But when we take these characters from mythology, while they may say something a certain way, as written in the stories, as written in the narratives, they don't have to act the exact same way, because we weren't there. We don't know how they acted. We don't know that Shiva was only always angry or stern, or that wasn't the case. And Parvati, on the other hand, always docile. A very simple thing such as the glance, the drishti, right? Where do the eyes look? So if we take a Devi or a Parvati, very often you will find, that downward glance, or that. So why, right? So why we have to question these mannerisms that we ascribe to each character also. And beyond that, I feel there is body language, of course, and how we move a certain way. I worked on this piece called Leela Hava for the Natikala conference a couple of years ago in Krishnagana Sabha. And it sort of works with this gender fluidity between Radha and Krishna. And they are, Leela Hava is the idea of Radha and Krishna exchanging on a very basic level
ornaments and jewelry and their external accoutrement. But beyond that, it's also sort of an exchange of souls. It's an exchange of their complete beings. So there is such a deep understanding between these characters that it doesn't have to be defined as one or the other, right? So now, same way when we take, let's say, Shiva and Parvati, how much of strength and grace exist in Tandava, and how much of, similarly, strength and grace exist in Lasya, because without one, we cannot have the other. They are themselves, strength and grace are themselves like Ardhanari. They have to work together, and that midline between the two is the most interesting point where we are, and that midline itself is fluid, right? So whether it is strong or graceful, or it doesn't depend on the character or the dancer. It depends on the moment, the music. There are so many elements that contribute to the maleness or femaleness of a movement, if you want to put those nomenclatures to it, right? And and I've said this before, Krishna is known as the most lovable, loving character among in our mythology. And to him, so there's no need for a sort of stereotypical way of portraying that love between them. So if there is a kiss, if there is an embrace, where is the maleness or femaleness in that? There is complete surrender between those characters. There is a complete letting go of each to submerge in the whole, in the amalgamation between the two. And so the characters don't themselves have to be gender specific in that sense, is my opinion. And I mean, we in many of the ways we portray the men, especially, there would be always this mustache twirling, or that of course Krishna doesn't have a mustache, and Radha hopefully won't have to twirl a mustache. But beyond that, it's these very stereotypical ways of portraying characters have to be done away with. And I think we need to look at who they are, who we are in those characters, who, our own gender fluidity, where does that get placed in the gender fluidity of the character that we are portraying is one thing. And I think when we're taking women as, rather female characters and portraying them as gentle, graceful, and fluid and docile, or if we're portraying men as vigorous and strong, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning, is does life imitate art, or art imitate life, right? So are we
merely extending these stereotypes that men have been subjected to in real life, right? So, I mean, saying that a woman can't take the lead in a relationship, or saying that a man cannot be shy or can't cry. So many of these things we keep hearing on a daily basis. So we're just reinforcing that through the art, or vice versa, you know, so it's confusing where that distinction lies. Yeah.
Rukmini ma'am?
I think this is a very vast topic, and I'll just try to address a very few points. There's because so much has already been said, so there's a few. I think, gesturally speaking, I think in the question one was it, if we change the gestures, do we change how the characters are portrayed, or something like that was in the question. So yes, in classical Indian dance, we do have, like, this is a woman, like this is a man. There are some kind of gesture that extend, but we have to understand every art form comes from a particular time period, and we don't know, like Vidyaka said, whether it emulated society at that time or it kind of fed into one of the other. So at that time, maybe people stood or talked or spoke a certain way. So, and the gesture themselves, in especially all the classical Indian forms, became a part of the vocabulary of the dance itself. So if you change that, are you changing the vocabulary? Are you not changing it? I don't know. That's something you have to ask yourself and figure out when you make something. But in terms of gender fluidity within the culture itself, I think that it's extensive. We have it. Krishna is not just, you can't look at Krishna and call him a man or a woman or anything for that matter. And like Divya was making that point about the consciousness, all of these gods and goddesses are just reinforcements of that consciousness, so which doesn't have a gender at all. So the consciousness is genderless, and these gods and goddesses, they have arbitrary genders here and there. So you cannot say that they stick to a particular gender, and this is a man and he has to stand like that, and this is a woman and she has to behave like that. These glances and all of that Vidyaka said, I'm sure they permeated our dance form during a particular time where women were like really subjugated and not in the right way. So I think that it's up to us as dance makers to choose to change those glances, and that doesn't make anything, because I've often, a lot of people have commented when I do jatis, and they're like, you're not smiling, and I'm like, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't mean I need to appease you and keep smiling all the time. So I can also just be straight. But I've seen that, like when I've seen like male dancers do jatis, and they don't smile at all. They don't do they did. They don't do it. They do did, and that's absolutely fine, and no one says anything. But suddenly when a woman does it, everyone has something to say. They're like, why are you just keeping a straight face? Why don't you have some expressions? And I'm like, expressions are not necessary all the time. So these are things that are up to us as a newer generation to defy stereotypes and decide where we want to place ourselves. And I don't think that affects or defects the form, because the fact that these stereotypes exist itself is defecting the form. So I think that if you change that, it doesn't do anything to the form or the vocabulary or to the tradition. Because inherently, I don't think the tradition is meant to have gender stereotypes, because it's one of the only cultures that has an archetype of a powerful, strong woman as Kali or Parvati, you know. Not many cultures have that that strength of a woman portrayed. Like if you're going to war, they say Jai Mahakali. That's a woman. It's not a man, you know. So I think that it's something that we need to celebrate, and it's up to us individually to fight against it, because 100% it exists in society, 100% it exists even within the art forms. But what is it that we do individually is something that we need to question ourselves. Do we perpetrate it? Do we continue it? Do we change it? Do we question it? Even in a padam, I forget which of you was saying it. Like when Radha is being portrayed, I think it was Divya, I don't know. When Radha is being portrayed, it's not necessary that she needs to be coy. that's up to us. Like the Bhagavatam hardly has mention of Radha. It's mostly Jayadeva's Ashtapadis that, like, have brought about this character of Radha. Why do we show her as coy? We don't need to. Maybe she was not at all coy. Maybe she ran after Krishna all the time and pushed him down half the time. So this is up to us to decide based on the characters that we portray and what we decide to do with that. At the same time, it doesn't mean it's wrong to have a woman that's coy either. And some women are coy, and that is beautiful, and that's nice, and it's so I don't think there's a rightness or wrongness of either one, and it's up to us to decide how we represent this, or whether we want to be more feminine, more masculine, or whatever that means, or do we want to be somewhere in between. But I think it's up to us as makers, as art makers, as the new generation, as youngsters like yourself, and yeah, that's it.
I think the important thing is, to add just a little bit to that, is that we don't conform to any external expectation of how that needs to be portrayed. You need to dance, or how the character needs to be portrayed, right? So it's something that is coming from an internal space. So it is not wrong for Radha to feel shy, or it is not wrong for Krishna also then simultaneously to feel shy. It should be across, genders. There should be no difference then. So rather than conforming to expectations of how one should dance or look, like you just said, when you smile, when you do an adavu or a jati, when you're expected to smile, we must, I think, question and understand why we are doing that. Why are we feeling shy in that character, or why are we feeling, valorous in a particular character? So it should come from an internal space.
Yeah. At the same time, culturally speaking, like even if you look at the sculptures, right, you think that a man is straight. Nowhere in the sculptures is Krishna portrayed as straight. It's always curvy. Even Shiva and all the Karanas and all the things is always curvy. There's nothing like, I'm a man. But I think that's more of a modern perception of how a man should be, with all these TV commercials and like pictures of men standing like this with their shirts off. So I think that it's something that is, I think, perhaps fed from the society that we live in also, as opposed to just that this is tradition and this is how we do it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you. I personally think that doing any art form is a constant process of learning and unlearning, to do away with what you know and to take in what you don't. So I think, as Vidya ma'am said, there is a need to question. There definitely is, because a lot of times we as students just accept what is given to us and do not really ponder upon it and not question the dynamics. So yeah, and one more thing I would like to add on. You did talk about gender fluidity that we explore as dancers. I think Indian classical dance gives us that space to explore the different gender dynamics as individuals. As the other day, I was having a conversation with a artist who does Western dancing. So I told him that, yeah, I do Indian classical. That person said, I love Indian classical, but I don't want to learn it because I don't want to explore those gender dynamics within myself. So I think Indian classical dance does have a higher edge over the other dance forms. Yeah. Moving on to our next question. Before that, I would like to mention that we are getting a lot of messages that the conversation is really insightful and compliments for all four of you. So thank you, all of those who are commenting. The final question. Indian philosophy supports the facts of Sangeet, song, dance, and music for the benefit of human health physically and mentally. How do you view the Indian classical dance form from the perspective of psychology? For example, some scholars have pointed out that the rhythmic footwork in Kathak help release anger. Ishani ma'am, would you like to start?
I have thought about this point of view from a lot of different angles because I used to feel that just this mode of expression when you learn a classical art form, is it restrictive or is it more liberating? I've had all these questions so many times when we are taught to move in a certain manner, when we are taught to do a particular movement in for a particular toda or a tukda or a paran. It has its own, the bowls have their own structure, and the movement most of the times elaborates it without having to explain why it is. Bowls in Kathak or Bharatanatyam don't have a specific meaning. They express, though, they have a lot of thought, they have a lot of expression. So whenever we move to a certain bowl, which is meaningless, we still express. So that always got me thinking that what am I expressing? Am I expressing something to that bowl, or am I expressing something which is naturally coming within me, which I'm feeling right now that's being expressed with this instrument that I have? Another angle that I experienced was my Guruji always says that when you do the beginning chalan or upaj on stage or when you're practicing, you have to bring together your thought, your energies, and your breath. Of course, your emotion, because it is a performing art, your emotion is very centric to it. When I started reading about yoga and practicing yoga a little bit, and I don't have much knowledge with it, but whatever basics I could understand, was that yoga is basically a union of all of these four things or three things. There's this course called Inner Engineering by Isha Foundation, and that speaks about a union of these four things: your thought, your energies, your emotion, and your body, of course. I feel for me, when I started learning the philosophy of yoga, I started also seeing a reflection of that in my own art form. And again, it resonated with the things my gurus keep on telling me. Not that this is the philosophy you should follow, but these are just things that they'll keep on sliding down in the classes which are getting hammered into us, which are seeping down into us. That just when you do your tatkar, when the nagma is playing, there's no other noise. You're just following one dha din din da 16 beats. It is just that chitta coming together, where your body, your emotion, your energy, everything's becomes one. And I think that if we let ourselves be, that becomes a very meditative process. Uh, After that first base of going into that meditative state, which prepares you to then elaborate, then express, then present whatever you have prepared or whatever the subject matter that is. So I feel it is the same philosophy which yoga follows that all classical Indian art forms, I feel, adheres to. And it is a wonderful extension of the same philosophy. Another angle, there was a mention of anger there. Um, when I started teaching kids, most often than not, the youngest kids who would come to the class, the first time you teach them Tatkar, they would go tap, 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 with all the energy that they had, because they felt that creating sound meant putting all the energy that you have into the footwork. And as innocent that they are, you really need to teach them how to control their energy, how to not hurt themselves while they're doing that. I think art and Indian classical art forms definitely teach you how to understand yourself better, how to create some amount of discipline and decorum within your own selves, not restricting your emotions or modes of expression, but only enhancing your understanding of how to express yourself. It could, because we work so closely with body, our own bodies or of others' bodies, I feel, we develop a better understanding of what does a person mean if there's a certain kind of glance, or if a person is angry or passively angry. There's a change of body language that suddenly happens in people, right, in all of us. And I think art taught me how to better understand that part, how to not get lost within myself, whether it was anger or depression or even joy sometimes. So I think an understanding, training of art definitely enhances this part. Now, the art forms are inherently based on these principles of understanding what lies within you and taking the chitta to its final part. Um, yeah, that is what my input would be.
Divya ma'am.
Okay. Very beautifully pointed out, conversations we have with ourselves as dancers, Ishani. And so many times, we don't get a chance to express this particular process that goes on in our own minds. We might have a few, coterie of people that, you share and talk, but sometimes it's important to listen to somebody else's process, because that is where the true learning and healing through dance happens. It's not just taking ahead Ishani's point that yes, I am dancing, yes, dance is working on me, it's healing me, it's giving me my moments of catharsis, it is giving me my moment of joy, silence, quietude, emotions, whatever. It's giving me everything, but I'm just one, right? But dance also has the power to carry everyone else along with you. Everyone else is equalized. Very often, there's this mind body correlation that goes on in the body of a dancer constantly. It's very funny, we always say that you have to reach a state of thoughtlessness in your dance, but every time your mind is very much aware and present, engaged, and then trying to bring that equilibrium between yourself, maybe your set of musicians who are maybe just doing riyaz with you, or your audience who's also present there with you, and then the true magic of dance literally disperses itself amongst everybody equally. I feel that is the true power of not just classical dance. I feel all kind of dances have that power, because it has no language barrier, it has no barriers of that nature. So it really brings everybody together. It really brings everybody together. And what it means to me as an artist, yes, it is my sadhana, it is my form of meditation, it is this, it is that, it is my love, it is my friend, it is my surrender. Yes, all these things are good and happening in a very positive way for me, but I'm also able to pass this beauty on to and share it with somebody else in that ephemeral moment that we all have and we hope to achieve. So this is one point that I wanted to bring. And the other thing is that, the concept of anand, the concept of rasa, the concept of, this state of being a witness, all these things have been spoken about so beautifully in our books, in our traditions. We hear it from experiences of, great gurus that we interact with. We have a lot of them who share it openly with all of us. And we always correlate. If you look at the dance therapy or the dance psychology, which is really very upcoming field, literally these days, especially post COVID, lot is being spoken about it. Finally, lot has been communicated about it. People are relating it that it's a movement. Dance is in the end movement. I'm flowing, I'm moving, I'm going from point A to point B. Not literally in space, but at least in time. Something is happening that I am constantly moving to find that stillness and to project that stillness. So what happens is that, we correlate it with, the adrenaline and the, endorphins and, the theta states. All these beautiful words are being put together with dance to bring out its qualities that actually work as expressions for individuals, works as a power of healing for everybody. And all of this has already been given to us as a gift as classical dancers. It's just that we probably don't say, okay, I reached the vocal learning stage and, I created sounds with my vocal cords. We are constantly doing it in Kathak. There is no Kathak performance in which, a dancer doesn't go up to the mic and use it. So all this has already been very beautifully gifted to us. And now, we are moving probably towards a more scientific approach in it, because we have the ability to go that way. And it's really, truly just a blessing to be like that. And I just feel that these little things that dance has, I can only talk about Kathak. I interact with a lot of Bharatanatyam and other dance forms, but I can only speak about Kathak. Yes, like you mentioned in your Kathak, that when you were doing Tatkar, and Ishani rightly pointed out, children truly enjoy that Tatkar part a lot. That foot thumping, stamping has something to it. And the other thing that they truly enjoy is Paran. It's like, they get to just scream it all out. It's like just whatever they have been caged in this educational system that we follow, that caging, boxing, the structuredness, over-structuredness of everything, they just like get a vent through the dance to just let it go. So it is a lovely catharsis. And then, for example, in our chakkars, everybody just sees is that something of great beauty and magnificence. Oh my God, somebody's just twirling 20, 30 times. But what is actually happening? Your personal rotation rhythm is matching the universal rhythm. That breath, like Raju Guruji, I have also heard him speak about this a lot, because he really does bring it out in his talks sometimes, that breath is matching something else. So I have found my balance, and hence I am able to deliver something else about it. So dance is basically a journey, and in this particular psychological environment that we all are talking about it, is that dance is poetry over poetry. If I'm given a literature, I'm creating over it. If I'm giving a rhythm, I'm adding my lyricality of my dance over it. If the poetry says, okay, this is my expression, even when we interact in lecture demonstrations, we ask the people that what else is there beyond what is the obvious. So it really gives you an opening to just like move away from so much baggage that we carry, so much of baggage that we literally carry as human beings, to just find that one moment in maybe, a performance of 2 hours or an interaction of an hour, where you will be able to just be like, yes, I was able to be my true self in that 1 minute. And that itself is enough, in my opinion, for dance to give to us. And being a physical activity where so many motor skills, so many senses, everything is, amalgamating, it just becomes easier to reach that state. Rather than sitting in Vipassana and meditating, which really is very, very challenging, takes years of practice to get over there. So this is a wonderful path to take us from our physical well-being to mental, emotional, psychological well-being, to a state of pure anand. That is the true purpose of dance, and that is what it gives to so many people. That's what I would like to say.
One thing I would like to add on, as a kid, you talked about Tatkar. As a kid, what empowering feeling that was to initially start doing Tatkar. And later on, when we, at senior level, when we actually learn how the techniques work, it starts becoming restrictive. And once we get it right, then again, it's an empowering experience to do that.
Vidya Akka said very beautifully, I think, right at the first question, that innocence of the art should never be lost. So I guess that is why we teach, so that we can keep in touch with that child, the child within all of us. So that joy is what we must carry.
True. Rukmani ma'am, what would you like to add on to this?
I think Divya has elaborated so many aspects of it. There's not much left for me to say. But I think that like even Ishani said that it does become meditative in a way. So when you are when people do meditation different ways, they chant, they think about a particular thing, they try to keep their mind centered on their breathing, on a name, on counting the beads, on numbers. So the different ways that people try to bring their mind to a single point of concentration. But when we are dancing, especially when we're especially when we're in a space of performance, or when we're doing a full run, I'm not saying when we keep stopping and repeating, but when we are in a place where we just cannot let our concentration go at all, we don't have that option of doing it, even with musicians, with recorded music, at any point, as long as we make that mind to say we're going to be in this dance the entire time for this 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever time that is, without texting, receiving phone calls, letting the door open, go back in, all of that. And that does become meditative. Just like when you do yoga and you switch off your phone, you turn on the music, I don't know, whatever people do when they do yoga, and you just keep your mind to I think technology is a big problem nowadays, actually. So it's when you take away all these distractions, 90% of which are involve some screen of some sort, or some phone, or some alarm clock. So if you keep these things out of the way, I think dance has that ability. And I don't think it's restricted even just to dance. It could be sports, it could be any kind of work, it could be art, it could be painting, it can be music. Any of these things have that ability to bring your mind to a single point of focus, and it does become meditative in a way, and it can help you, at least for me, I think it helps you harness or look at your emotions with perspective in some ways. So once you're out of the dance, you can be an awful person, like that's very true. But at the same time, that it gives you that time during dance, a space where you remove yourself, like you go on holiday, right? You say, oh, the city is too much, let me get some outdoors. So I think the dance for most of us is our outdoors, is our time by the beach, or sitting quietly with a book and some music. So it gives you that mental space to look at your life. If you choose to use it, you can also choose not to use it, but I think the arts have that ability to give you that mental space. So psychologically, it's up to us to let it affect us or not, because the moment you come back from an amazing vacation, you can have something that unpleasant happen to you, and you can react very, very badly, right? And I think dance is the same thing. But if you use this time in that vacation to think about how I'm leading my life, I should make these changes, oh, this is emotion, okay, I have space to clear my mind of all these things that are weighing me down in my life. And then when I come back to my life, I say, okay, let me have some perspective. And the arts have the ability to be your vacation, if you choose, but it's up to us to choose to use it like that. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Vidya, ma'am.
Well, the days I don't dance, I'm an awful person. I'm such a pain to deal with, and my husband knows this. I think most dancers would agree, So on a daily basis, it becomes a sort of this addiction, and it's a happy place. It's like Rukmini just said, and it's a place we can go to truly, actually, both dichotomies, to escape and to be ourselves completely. Somehow, both happen in that space. But beyond that, I think this question was a little amusing to me, because I know most of us dancers are quite mad. We are mad to be pursuing this as a profession, because it is one of the hardest professions to pursue in terms of ROI. I mean, in terms of what we get in tangible outcome. And but it gives us so much. It just there is no end to what it can give us, and which is why we do it in spite of all of the shortcomings and all of that, right? So we are a bit mad ourselves to be doing this. But I want to say that, see, when we look at wellness, right? Wellness is this circle within which fit the body, the mind, and beyond that, the spirit as well, right? So each of these are fed through the art forms. Each of these are, on a daily basis when we practice that, when we learn it and when we practice it, they are fed. Physically, of course, we know we are going through movements, we are going through the repetitions, we are going through something that is sort of meditative. We are doing it over and over again because we're expected to, and there is frustration, there is all of that, but we try to overcome that to get it as close to satisfactory as possible. So physically, we are challenged and we are engaged, and the body is completely, it's sweating and it's exercising. Then mentally, of course, we have the level of focus, the level of what you have to do to remember all of the choreography. Then beyond that, also how you can be conditioned to the point where you can be extemporaneous in your depiction of something, where you can respond or react immediately. So that's a heightened mental state where you can do that comfortably. That is one. And then, of course, the spirit. The spirit is constantly satisfied, yet yearning when we're practicing an art form, right? So we are so satisfied. There are these fleeting moments of satisfaction, and then we just want more of it. We just yearn for more and more of it. And to me, actually, that is the crux of the Naika in a Varnam or in any composition that we portray. The Naika is that person who is constantly yearning for something that is outside of her. And what are we all as human beings doing anyway on a daily basis? We're always yearning for something that we don't have, or something that, that is beyond our reach. And when we look at this, to go back to that circle of mind, body, spirit, right? So when we put these three together, we are finding, and this is, it's not specific to rehearsal or performance to me. When you're, it should, to me, both should be the same, because if you're dancing in both spaces, whether you're performing or rehearsing or practicing, you're dancing, and the body is moving in the same way. You may repeat it more often, yes, in practice. Now, in this process, there is that centering that happens. That's that absolute centering where you're not engaged in anything outside of that, what that focus, what it draws you in that sense, right? So you lose yourself and yet find yourself to give you these constant cliched dichotomies. That's what happens. And, but this is, of course, the profession itself is quite stress inducing, because on a daily basis, we are navigating the politics of it and what that entails. But so these are two sides of our life as practitioners of a dance form. But in no way do I want to say that this is, arts are something that can cure mental health issues. They are not something, mental health issues are real and they are everywhere. They are around us, and not enough attention is paid to these. But I feel that the arts can be a very powerful tool in the management of mental health issues or of anyone, and of whether it is us as dancers or those that we are helping with teaching, or so I've worked with a few groups actually. Well, one of them was, a group of women who had gone through abuse in their marriages, and we did a workshop with them. And then I've done another space where I was in Chicago in this institution where women were incarcerated. They were in a halfway home for drug-related charges. And these, when I started out, everything, right? The body language, the way they talked, the way they sat, the way they appeared, everything was sort of so tight and sort of constricted. There was this sense of no eye contact, and there was no smile, nothing. But whether it was each different times I worked either 2 hours or 1 week or whatever it was, you see a slow opening that happens when, and there is a crack of a smile, maybe a glance, maybe an eye contact, maybe someone actually has the courage to get up and talk about their experiences, and just through movement, through sharing something. And these are the moments when I feel like there is such power in the art form, right? And we are just tools. I mean, I was just a tool and a vehicle in that process, but the power is just mind-boggling. I mean, and I myself was amazed. And so on one level, we are performing in these theaters and these big spaces where there is a connection with the audience and where there is that feeling of energy and like what Divya said, that exchange of energies and that communication, and how we are creating a space of magic. And then when something like this happens, it makes you feel like you're nothing, right? So, and the beauty of the art is beyond all of it, right? So for this very reason, I will end with this, is that I very strongly feel that arts have to be incorporated into the curriculum in schools for this very reason, and starting from a very young age. And it's not something that should happen only outside of school as an extracurricular, right? So because we learn so much through the arts. It's not just the art form that we learn about life through any art form.
Thank you so much, all of you. I want to share an example, which is, of course, unmatched to yours. Initially, when our college shifted online, we had nothing, no dancing. Whereas when the college was offline, we were only practicing for competitions, going there and performing. Though we were still frustrated then because of the rigorous physical work that the society was going through. But soon we realized that we had fallen in love with that frustration and that stress and that exhaustion when things turned online. For the longest time, we had nothing. The society wasn't working. There were no dance classes, and we all were stuck inside our homes. And then slowly we started doing online sessions, workouts, and we started dancing. Just now I realized that we come collectively, we talk, and there is a time when our society members say we had a really bad day because day and night there are online classes, we are in front of the screens. And after 1 hour of that society session where we all are dancing, everybody is relieved, everybody is so relaxed. And I realized this just while you were talking, how magical that is, how liberating art can be, and what wonders it can do, which I just realized. So yeah, thank you, all of you. We all are really grateful to all 4 of you for sharing so much with us. The discussion will surely make a difference in the thought process of many budding artists sitting here with all of us. It's not the end of the event, though. There's something left for you, a little surprise for all of you. Now I request Akhila to please take over.
Okay, so now we can have a small Q&A session. So if you have a question in your mind, you can type it out in the chat box. It can be both general questions or questions which are specifically directed to one of our panelists. Meanwhile, Alankar, the Indian Music Society of Hindu College, proudly presents for us Rang Rangila, a soulful collaboration unifying 27 artists from across the country, all Hindu College alumni of the former decade. We hope that you all experience the musical escape with this beautiful piece. I request Soumya to present it for everyone.
रंग रंगीला रंगीला 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 गारे बदरा छाए गारे गारे बदरा छाए डार डार गुनगुनाए तोरे बरस की मनवा में आस दौड़न लागी 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 धीम तननन धीम तननन धीम तननन धूम तननन
Thank you, Alankar. It was such a mesmerizing performance, a treat for both eyes and ears. So we have our first question. Can you please reflect a bit on how dance can help us to connect with the outer world other than contributing to our inner selves? Is the question directed to any of our panelists or is it a general one?
It's a general one, like anyone can take it up. It was just a thought in my mind.
Okay. So, ma'am, you can decide among yourselves, whoever can pick it up.
I think I have a reference to this question because 3 months back, I had a very wonderful discussion with one of our online students. And well, to be very honest, when COVID started and all of us had to shift virtually to online tutoring, it took some amount of time to get used to that whole pattern of on-screen teaching and learning both. But some very wonderful experiences came out of it, I feel, and one of it was this. So the student was learning from me for a period of 5 or 6 months, and she's a 22-year-old graduate student. And she one fine day sent me a long message saying that since the time she was a kid, she was an extremely introvert person. She hated school, she hated college because she was just not comfortable with the idea of being in a bunch of people. She had very selective 2 or 3 friends, and somehow she never adjusted to the idea of being in a group. And somehow learning this art form, just being in the class, spending those 4 or 5 months with me, 3 hours a week, just learning this, getting in touch with this art form somehow transformed her from within. So I read the message, I actually called her up and I asked her what changed because I was very intrigued to that somebody would feel something so strongly over learning, having learned something over the screen and still feel such a transformation inside. What her input was, I would like to share with you. She said that over time, as she started learning Kathak in the second or the third month, she started realizing that she was not comfortable with her own body. She never felt comfortable in her own clothes or just being herself, just looking into the mirror was created some sort of a discomfort for her. And this realization came after she started dancing. So her understanding of the fact was that probably the dance made her connect with her own body, which made her more comfortable, which made her feel more at peace with herself, with her own thoughts, with who she is. And once that definition of self happened for her, it made her more comfortable to interact with more people. It made her feel more comfortable talking or interacting with strangers, or to just share an energy with them. I think that sharing of energy, sharing of self was the barrier for her, and that started somewhere deep within. So, this learning of dance and using the body to create something, to understanding one's body, this whole process was transformative for her. And this for me was phenomenal because although we all go through that as a very slow process over the years, and internally we experience so much, but just to see this was something which brought out a lot of thoughts in me and instigated a lot of other thought processes in me of how I feel or how I connect with my body on different days of the month, dancing different sets of pieces and creating different sorts of work. So, yeah, I thought I would like to share that experience in response to the question.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful answer. I'm sure that we could always all relate to it. So, is anyone else going to take up this question, or can I move on to the next?
Well, I just want to add, see where this, I mean, the fact that we're all sitting here and talking online is a product of the pandemic often, right? So, I mean, that's what I look at the last 2 years and marvel at how much we have started communicating with each other as opposed to before. And I think dancers are notorious. I mean, it was, a lot of these forms were developed as solo dance forms. And they were performed solo, they were taught, in the traditional classrooms, they were taught to individual students. So everything was I learned, I was the only one in my class. And so you never really interacted with others, and you were just in these silos, in these bubbles. And as I grew up and performed and worked on my own choreographies, again, solo dances. So this sort of, and then a certain hierarchy starts to develop in the field, and it's just problematic in many ways. And so you are expected to behave a certain way or act a certain way, and you conform often to that. But you keep questioning within yourself as to why should I, right? So these journeys are so solo that this pandemic, I think, shook us out of that reverie, and sort of we've really started to talk. I mean, one of the things I did when we were all stuck in our homes, first of all, realize that on such a large scale level, I mean, we are so privileged, so privileged to have what we have, and to be able to practice an art form when many are suffering in so many ways. But with using this art form, what can we do? I mean, that is what we ask ourselves, right? And so, working with a group of dancers, we talked through many issues, and we talked through not just relating to art, not just relating to the dance form, or it was sometimes through that, sometimes through the sharing of an article which we discussed. But beyond that, it was personally how we were feeling, how each of us was feeling, and what this did to us. And everybody came from different spaces in their life. I mean, some were young mothers who were trying to still continue to dance. Some were able to dance, but the motivation was lacking. So much that was going on, but that was one side of it. And then this actually grew into a different idea with an organization, NALAP, that we did something called the Circle of Trust, where we talked, sort of invited people to join this Circle of Trust, where you could talk about how this whole thing was affecting you. And you didn't have to be a dancer for this, how this whole thing was affecting you. So I think the pandemic has sort of opened these lines of communication up in so many ways. And my only hope is that we continue after. I mean, I hope there is an after. And, we continue this way of, reaching out to each other and communicating with each other, and sort of not going back to our comfortable silos. So I think because the outside is what feeds the inside, to answer your question. So it's without the outside, we can't have that inside. So to learn more about the inside, we need what we observe outside of us.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that answer. So with that, we move on to our next question. How would you guide the young minds who want to enter the field of dance on a professional level? What advice would you give them to break the societal shackles, and how should they initiate themselves to enter this journey? This is also a general question.
Okay, I can answer that. I think that this is something that I think a lot of dancers have asked me or figured out, how did you decide to be a professional dancer? How do you take it up? And many times it's about, do we make the right contacts? How do we network? What do we do? And all of that. For me, the answer I think is always the same, is that I think first work on your art and work on practicing, and think about everything else as a product of that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't apply to festivals, you shouldn't talk to people, and you shouldn't, reach out. That's definitely there, but not 10% should go into all the rest of it. And it's and sometimes with social media and this, and now it's even more overwhelming in the last few years, I think. But I think that it's something I try to tell all of my students as well, is that it has to be an extension, not an extension, it's just like a glimpse into what you normally do. You don't, that's why sometimes I'm against that creating content. It's not creating content, but it's just that you do your day, and out of your day you say, yes, I'm a performer, I need to kind of make my presence and connect with people, because this is the way people do it nowadays. And you take a 20-second video of your practice and put it. So obviously, because of the pandemic, there's a lot of the things that we made became online, at least for me as well, because I was like, I couldn't make on stage, and everything that I'd created, and I couldn't perform, and I was like, where do I make now? So yes, I did make a lot of dance films, but it's not, I think that we shouldn't be distracted from our art and our riyaz and our practice. That should be number one. Number one is practicing, learning something new every day, and finding out what is it in you that can drive you to do this every day, because wanting to be a professional dancer is one thing, but then realizing that, I can't really do it all the time if I don't have a performance. Can you dance every day if you don't perform for like the whole time of the pandemic? Can you still push yourself to work on your art and find that love for that art, irrespective of eyes that see you in an audience, right? Obviously, we're performers, we love to share our art with audience members. That goes without denying. We like that connection. I don't know, we live off of that connection. But at the same time, do you love your art enough to continue on? Do you find enough joy in the process, is a question that you need to ask yourself if you are an aspiring professional. So find the joy. There's something one of my teachers used to tell me, is like, love the art in you and not necessarily yourself in the art. So if you find that you love the art in you, then your path will be, it'll begin to take shape. And with performing arts, you just have to embrace everything that's offered your way, because we're like seekers. We're like, okay, this is coming, all right, this is a choreography project, fine, all right, this is a different project, this is within my scope, yeah, I'll do it. So we cannot say, I will only perform in this thing in that place at this time. If I don't get that, my life is ended. What if you get it? Then also your life will be ended, because you got that one thing that you wanted. So it's always it's malleable, and as long as you love your dance, I think that I just say dance, obviously it could apply to any art. As long as you love it, be open to different things, because art can manifest in your life in so many different ways, and there's so many opportunities, because performance is not the only thing. Performance is one thing. You can be a teacher, you can be a choreographer, I mean, you can do so many things with the arts, so I think that we very often think professional dancer means being on stage and dancing. Yes, that's one thing, but I can think of so many other things that I can do if I don't just perform as well. So yeah, that's my advice.
I would like to say a little something to completely different from, Rukmini has said truly what we need to remember when we want to become an artist. It's sadhana is the key. That is where truly, the learning and the understanding of the self, or everything else that we talk about that arts are associated with, that is where it really does take place. But since you asked that what should your advice be to somebody who is an aspiring artist, I'm not saying performer, teacher, choreographer, creative, just in their own house and very happy about it. Anybody can take on any role. It doesn't really matter. But that honesty to your art is really the key, and that responsibility to your own self and to your art is the other thing. But very often, especially in these times, I mean, even before COVID, not just through the even more challenging teaching learning process that we all are going through currently, everybody learns art because they want an output of it. That is the approach I feel we really need to recheck, and then ask ourselves that are we only wanting to do this because I want to, I mean, okay, fine. I don't know when, athlete began his career, did he say, okay, I want to win that Olympic gold, so I'm beginning today? I don't know. But for me, at least, it doesn't work like that. But because I want to do that, so today I'm doing this. So this, you're already expecting so much out of your art without even wanting to understand how much are you willing to give to it. You have to give to be able to also receive something from it. If your intention is honest, if it is pure, something will come out of it. If not what you expected, maybe something even better, or something which will open your dimension into another door completely. And the second thing that I would like to say over here is that, this is more specific to what Vidya Akka briefly mentioned in one of her answers when we were discussing something else, is the teaching methodology has to actually go through a metamorphosis, in my personal opinion, because it has to be given its due importance. Often I'm sure all of us are teachers, and we've experienced it at some point or the other, and you youngsters who've learned and been through a rigorous educational system over here in India, that you're learning dance outside your educational system, hence it's always secondary. Always it is secondary. So that particular attitude needs to be corrected with the right approach, by giving arts its true place. And not everybody is aware what they want. I was young, I didn't know when that moment came in my life that I decided to be a dancer. Not everybody is blessed in that way, that they know when they were a little child that this is what they want to do their entire life. It comes together at some point through the journey of being a dancer. So at least create that environment where the child or the aspiring enthusiast of art would want to become an artist. So that environment has to be made more friendly, more congenial, more approachable for everybody, rather than making it a deterrent right at the start, that this is cool and this is priority and this is nothing less than 95%, and then all the other things that you also do this, you also do that, you also do that. So that attitude correction is also very much required. So this is what I would like to say.
I realized I wanted to be a professional at my Arangetram. It was a very precise moment. Until then, I was a very difficult student. I I believe I was talented, and my guru had these visions of what I could be, but he didn't. Of course, teachers did not tell you were good. They never told you. So you just went through this thing thinking, oh my God, my knees hurt, my everything hurts. So at one point when the Arangetram happened, and I think essentially for me, I'm not happy just dancing only in my space. I need to have this connection between dancing in my space and dancing to communicate with others. So performance is a big part of that. And so when I went on stage and this energy, palpable energy that I felt with the audience, and that moment something switched on inside of me and said, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I can't imagine doing anything else. And of course, I went and did a BCom and all that unnecessary stuff. But this is where I wanted to go, and I realized that at that moment. So when we talk of advice, you can realize all that, but then beyond that, after that, what happens is extremely difficult. It is one of the toughest things you can do to be an artist. It's not just a dancer, any art form, right? And this is because this ecosystem that we live in is not supportive of the arts, and do not, like I was just saying, from the educational system to the entire world. I mean, arts are always something that can be done away with, that can be dispensed with, soft power, or they are something that take a secondary place. It can be entertainment. It can be, if there are a bunch of scientists doing something really important, you can entertain them. So that, that needs to be done away with, and it has to be on par with it. And I think one of the things that this pandemic has taught us is that it is the arts that have really brought about so much joy and a sense of peace, in so many of us, non-artists as well. So I think one needs to realize that it is very, very difficult. If the decision is made to become a professional, it is supremely difficult to continue from there, to move forward from there. But if you have the determination, like Rukmini said, you have to be able to ask yourself, can I dance whether or not I have a performance? Can I get up every day and put in that work? I mean, I am now, I'm 53 now. And at this point, I have to do more than I did when I was 20 or 30 or 40, right? So I have to do more at this point. And it is something you have to be able to sustain for a very long time. So the level of not just physical work, but all of the work that is entailed in doing an art form, in practicing an art form, is something that it's not that on day one you decide that you're going to invest in this for the rest of your life, but you also have to understand how tough it is, and the support system that is required within your family and within, and in the society that you live in is so important. You won't, there are some wonderful dancers I know of who couldn't get past a certain point because the support system was lacking, right? So it is unfortunately a space where financials and the family support, all of it matters, right? And this is not to discourage, it is just that it is something that you have to be aware of and be very cognizant of before you say, I want to take this up as a profession, right? So, and like somebody else said, I think Rukmini said, not everybody has to dance, perform, right? So it can be, there's so much to do with the arts that we can engage in and make a very meaningful contribution. So let's not eliminate all of, even writing for the arts. We don't have enough good dance criticism, and dancers would make the best writers for dance, So all you have to do is also hone your writing skills, of course. But that's just one small example. But so when we say profession, there's so much to it. But I just want to caution that it is tough.
I would also like to add, sorry, did I cut somebody off?
No, go ahead, Ishani. I'll see after.
Sorry. One thing I would like to add is because a lot of people have started connecting with arts on a digital platform, whether it is YouTube or Instagram. There's a notion that if I put something out and if it does not get 100,000 likes or 100,000 views, I'm not good enough, so I should not pursue this. I have so many DMs and I have so many of my own students who post something and who feel like, oh, I did not get 1,000 likes, which means maybe I'm not a good dancer. So then why do I continue? So just the notion that if somebody gets these many views or likes, it's a good dancer and I should learn from this person, or that I am a good dancer or I can be a good dancer just because I'm getting that sort of a validation on social media. Please avoid getting into that sort of a thought process. So every application, whether it is Instagram or YouTube, it works on a very specific algorithm. That algorithm changes every month or every couple of months, and how many views you get, the visibility that your piece is getting, it depends on all of that. And if dancers try to put something out before they understand it themselves, even that representation is not who they truly are. So if you're really looking to explore the art form, try to keep away from digital media as a mode of expression, I would suggest, for some time. Or even if you do, don't bank your everything on that one set of video that you made.
I'm gonna add to that, because I do have used social media quite a bit in recent years. A lot of the meaningful work that I actually perform on stage is never seen on social media. Most of the things that are slow, like the things that take time to cultivate, like I've been working on 2 pieces now. I've been working on one on women and being abducted and how our freedom is abducted, and something like in society. I don't have anything about that on social media, because I don't think that I'm ready to share. 1, 2, I'm so absorbed when I go into rehearsals that I really don't have the time to videotape it. It's just not in my mind, so I just don't do it, and it's an effort to stick the phone somewhere and videotape. All my videos are really bad light, which are just references for my own choreography. So the social media is a tool for a performer, because it does help you reach other people, but use it as a tool, not as an assessment of your art. It's not a parameter. And yes, definitely it can reach people who I know, because there's so many people who say, I never used to watch Bharatanatyam, I see your videos, I like them, I enjoy them. I'm very happy for that. But I would like them to come to a show. I would like them to watch Bharatanatyam in a theatre eventually. So if that happens, I'm overjoyed. And some of the work that I've spent the most amount of time, that actually is like gone my heart, online, nobody watches it. Nobody watches those things that I spend, that took the longest time, that I put my heart and soul, that like on stage, which would move people, or which would carry the weight, because it's a different medium. It's a medium of 30 seconds, of 1 minute, and people see different things, and that's okay. And if we can reach more people by using that medium, that's amazing. But that is not a parameter for your art. That is not a parameter of being a good Bharatanatyam dancer or a bad one at all. Because sometimes if you can do something in 30 seconds and you can hold that audience and 5 million people watch it, I'm not sure that same person can go and be on stage for 2 hours and hold an audience. It's a completely different skill set, and I'm not demeaning one or the other. They are different things altogether. But if you are aiming at being a performer on stage, then use social media, but don't be consumed by it. That's all. And I wanted to add to something else that Vidyaka was saying, is that in terms of time, it's that with dance, now we go to school, we study for 12 years, we study math, and then we study science. In 11th and 12th, we choose our concentration, then we study even harder. If we're going to do science, we do biology, we take AP biology, all of this. After that, we do 4 years of like pre-med, and then we decide med, and then even then we're not allowed to become a doctor. Then we do understudy, and after that, finally, maybe we'll become a doctor after 30 years. Okay? This is how it is. But with dance, suddenly, people who would attend class maybe once a week as a hobby when they're 10, they finish their 12th standard, suddenly they're like, finish engineering, all through college they barely dance, sometimes they go to dance class, they dance in college groups here and there, finish college and like, I've decided to be a professional dancer, I want to take it up now. So that's fine, it's great, but now spend the next 10 years dancing morning to night. You have to invest the time, because everyone is in a hurry nowadays. When is my arangetram? When is my first show? I don't think my mother had the guts to even ask my teacher, when will my daughter perform? Like, I couldn't even open my mouth and ask my teacher. You just have to just zip up and go to class and do whatever she said. So there's no question of, can I dance? Can I perform? Can I join this? Is nothing. Zip. You just be there. And I think that time for being a student and learning is very, very important. And sometimes we just like, we have to give it the respect it deserves. That's all. So if you're choosing to be a professional, remember it's going to take time. You can't say, oh, I tried for 2 years, it didn't really work out, I gave up. No, try for 8 years. Morning to night, you dance for 8 years. And then after that, let's see if it works out.
That is absolutely well said, Rukmini, and so required, especially in today's time. And since both of you were on the topic of digital media, and we are amidst such wonderful youngsters, I really just have to put it out there, even if I don't sound so good. But please, YouTube and social media is not the path to learn a classical art form. Go to a teacher. Eventually have the patience to reach the teacher. No matter what limited circumstances you have financially, geographically, whatever it is, your resources, however constrained they are, that is the only way to receive the art form. I know so many people and they say, no, but I watched the YouTube videos which were given to me by XYZ stalwarts, and yes, they are. But, my dance doesn't look the same, because that is not how they did it. They are just making it a little more accessible, a little more welcoming, that yes, we associate a lot of intelligence and, very like only the classy people go and watch classical dance. And that's all probably their intention is to reach them, or whatever their intent is also completely different. But please don't use digital platforms as your teacher. They are not your teacher. A teacher can only be somebody you can go to and learn from.
I mean, I'm confused as to how one can even learn from digital. I mean, I'm sorry, this is a bit of news to me.
I will share you such tutorials which go into volumes and volumes and volumes by very, very renowned artists, not just in dance, even other fields of music. Yes, it is happening by the side.
Yeah. I mean, I had a little inkling of this, but entire compositions, I mean, one can learn. Wow. No. So then what? Then
right
what?
from basic Adavu, you can learn, like, jump 3 inches and then twirl like this, and then the arrow will go like that, and that becomes your teacher and your guide. And
please don't, please, I'm begging all of you, please don't learn it that way. I mean, the youngsters, I'm saying. It's just not worth it. It's just not, you're not really discovering anything.
Yeah. Technology can be used as an assistance, as a tool for our benefit. It can't be the only thing for us.
Very rightly said. It's a tool. So it's the same thing.
You've spent 15 years in class and you've have the assistance of a teacher, and you're away from your teacher. You can use the videos to be inspired, to watch, to guide, but you cannot learn from the videos, because let me tell you one thing. I can just say for me, I can speak for myself. The dances that over the past year, I've made a lot of YouTube dance videos. What I dance in the YouTube videos is completely modified from what I dance on stage. It's really not even the same choreography. It's totally different. So if you learn it from a YouTube video, you cannot perform on stage. You can dance in a 4x4 space and make a video of it and be there. So it's not because there's so many things on stage that are different, spatial things, where you walk, where you talk, how you approach the stage. These things you have to learn in person from a teacher. You cannot learn it on videos.
I mean, there's a difference between imitation and learning, right? People confuse that on social media. Just to imitate does not mean to learn.
And there are enough teachers in the world, enough good teachers in the world. Yeah. I would love to go to class even now if I could.
Everyone would.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all. It was like truly eye-opening, and I'm sure it would have been a great advice to all those aspiring artists out there. So with that, we've come to an end of our Q&A session. And now I call upon Isha to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Akhila. Firstly, I'd like to personally mention how much am I in awe of the aura which this webinar has created. Such thoughtful insights has imbibed in me the importance that a particular perspective holds. Adhyata is a forebearer of our college, Hindu college. And that is why I, Isha, on behalf of all the members of my society, extend my heartfelt gratitude to the captain of our ship named Hindu, Ma'am Principal, for always extending her unconditional support and for always appreciating the thoughts behind our practice. I also sincerely thank our teacher in charge, Ma'am Shalini, for being our backbone and for always motivating us to strive harder in order to make Adhyata reach the best place. Adhyata today has again created a day for itself which is going to inscribe in its glories forever. And that is why I extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the panelists, Ma'am Vidya, Ma'am Divya, Ma'am Rukmini, and Ma'am Ishani, for letting all of us experience this beautiful, insightful, and thoughtful day with your benign presence among us. Hearing from you was indeed our honor and also once in a lifetime moment for all of us. Thank you for giving us a different outlook towards dance altogether. Thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and giving us this profound experience. We would also like to mention Alankar, the Indian Music Society of Hindu College, for presenting such a mesmerizing performance. To be able to deliver such a beautiful performance and to be able to create such a powerful aura virtually is indeed greatly appreciable. Thanks for creating your magic once again in our event Izhar-e-raqs. Now, we would like to thank our media partner as well as our streaming partner, Cultural Roots Foundation, who have been a great support from the very start. Thank you for making Izhar-e-raqs reach to a lot more people through the live streaming, and thank you for helping us in making this event a huge success. We would also like to thank our other media partners, Delhi University Official and DUBeat, for associating with us and for helping us in circulating the news about our event in the most efficient manner. Last but not the least, we would like to thank all of you who have joined in today. Thank you for giving this purpose of ours a real success. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Out of a lot of things that I'm grateful for this pandemic, I think the list cannot be completed without this event, because I think if the pandemic would not have happened, we would have not been able to put this together. I nowhere mean to promote the negative side of the pandemic, though, here. And with this, we have come to an end of this event, though we do not want it to end and we want it to go on forever, because we are deeply, deeply enchanted by the magic that you all have spread. I again would take this opportunity to thank all four of you for expanding the dimensions of the art of dance for all of us. Thank you so much. Any ending notes that you would like to say? Any of you?
Just, yeah, thank you for inviting me. And I think this is, I learned a lot too, and this has been a very engaging discussion. And I just want to say that I think as young dancers, I would, but I can only speak for myself, would like to make myself more accessible. You would email me if you have more questions. We don't have to confine it to this session. Just send me an email, and I'd love to address those questions as well. So feel free to reach out in the future as well. And beautiful discussion, and I wish you all the best. All the dancers, beautiful dancers that I've had this, it's been a very fun session to share this space with you all, and all the young aspiring dancers who are watching as well. I wish you all the best. I wish everyone all the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so we now see, yeah, somebody saying something? Okay, no. Okay, so we officially now end the session for everybody. Thank you. Again, we thank everybody for joining in. Mohit sir, I think you can end the meeting.
Is he not here? I guess he's not here.
Can you text him?
Mohit sir,
I think you can end the if you all leave the meeting, will something happen to the recording? I'm just concerned about that.
why that is what I need to.
Okay.
Who all are still?
There are a few participants.
He's coming.